Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into the incredibly complex yet totally fascinating legal maze of marrying a Cambodian citizen as a foreign national. You know, if you've ever wondered exactly how different countries handle the messy intersection of romance, heavy bureaucracy, and international law, well, you are definitely in the right place. So let's just dive right into it.
Okay, here's our roadmap for today's bureaucratic journey. We're going to break down this multi-step process, starting with local versus international marriage, the basic substantive conditions you need to meet, the anti-exploitation measures behind all the red tape, the massive document trail, and finally, finalizing the registration.
Starting off with Section 1, Local versus International Marriage. So, to put things in perspective, if two Cambodian nationals decide they want to tie the knot, it's actually a super localized, straightforward affair. They basically just submit a marriage application to their local authority, which is known as the Kum or Sangkat, where the prospective bride happens to live. And that's pretty much it. But the second you introduce a foreign national into the mix, it's a whole different ballgame. You instantly trigger this labyrinth of ministry approvals. It shifts from the simple local paperwork exercise to a multi-tiered national and even international process.
To really grasp the rules of this landscape, we've got to look at the specific laws that dictate these cross-border unions. Now, whether the marriage happens right there in Cambodia or overseas, it's fundamentally governed by the civil code. But if you're a foreigner marrying a Cambodian citizen, you've got to specifically play by the rules of the 1989 law on family and marriage, along with a really crucial piece of legislation called Subdecree 183/2008. We're going to be mentioning that subdecree a lot today because it literally shapes almost every single aspect of this process.
Moving on to Section 2, Basic Substantive Conditions.
Before you even think about picking up a pen for the heavy paperwork, the Civil Code lays out a few foundational rules you absolutely have to meet. First up, the general age of marriage is 16. Now, if one person is 16 and the other hasn't quite hit the standard age requirement, they can sometimes still go ahead, but only if they get official parental or guardian consent. Second, you've got to be legally single. So if you were married before, there is zero chance you can remarry until that previous marriage is officially legally dissolved. And finally, no marriages between close blood relatives. It sounds obvious, but the Civil Code strictly prohibits it. So if you meet those baseline stats, great, you're ready to proceed. But brace yourself, because it's about to get a lot more complicated.
Which brings us to Section 3, Anti-Exploitation Measures.
You might be wondering, why is this process so incredibly strict? Well, these regulations aren't just arbitrary red tape designed to frustrate couples. Not at all. The Cambodian government actually explicitly acknowledges that marriages between their citizens and foreign nationals are highly susceptible to manipulation by criminal elements. This red tape, it's a deliberate, protective shield. The government put these measures in place to actively prevent illegal activities across its borders, specifically targeting human trafficking, along with labor and sexual exploitation, which, tragically, are often hidden behind fake or fraudulent marriages.
Because of that, Subdecree 183/2008 entirely outlaws any kind of intermediary agents, brokers, or business companies from arranging these marriages. You absolutely cannot hire a matchmaking service to set up a cross-border marriage in Cambodia. The relationship has to be direct, and it has to be authentic. They're cutting out third-party businesses that might secretly be operating as fronts for trafficking.
Furthermore, Article 5 of that very same subdecree is crystal clear. You can't do this from afar. The foreign partner has to physically travel to Cambodia to complete the process. No mailing in your paperwork, no having a proxy stand in for you. This mandatory physical presence is just another major hurdle to ensure the marriage is totally legitimate and fully consensual for both people involved. And here is where it gets highly specific. To further crack down on fake marriages, the government added a fascinating layer in a 2011 diplomatic notice aimed specifically at foreign men wanting to marry Cambodian women. Get this. The foreign man must be under 50 years old, and he has to earn a minimum of $2,500 per month. It's a very direct, demographic-based rule designed to ensure financial stability and to block specific patterns of exploitation the government had been noticing.
All right, Section 4, the document trail. Let's get into the paperwork.
The very first key to unlock this entire process is something called diplomatic notarization. Before you even think about approaching a Cambodian ministry, the foreign national has to go to their own country's embassy inside Cambodia. The embassy's job is to review all your relevant documents and officially certify that they are true and valid. Without that official stamp of approval from your own government, the Cambodian government won't even glance at your application.
Once your embassy is on board, the foreign partner has a literal mountain of paperwork to compile. We're talking beyond just standard marriage forms and passport copies. You have to prove your health, your single status, your clean criminal history, and your employment. And keep in mind that $2,500 rule for men we just talked about. And all of this has to be topped off with that crucial diplomatic notarization. Honestly, it's essentially a rigorous background check masquerading as a marriage application.
Meanwhile, the Cambodian Citizen's checklist is a bit more localized, but it is just as strict. They're going to need their birth certificate, a single or widow status certificate from their local commune head, and a health check from a specifically recognized hospital. Basically, both parties have to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that they're healthy, single, and exactly who they claim to be.
Finally, Section 5, finalizing the registration.
So, you've got all your documents. Now there's a literal chain of command you have to navigate, and it flows strictly from the top down. Step 1, like we covered, is your embassy. Step 2, you haul all those documents over to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, or MFAIC. If they give you the green light, they pass your application to Step 3, the Ministry of Interior. The MOI runs their own check, and if you pass that, they issue a letter down to Step 4, which is the civil status officer at the local commune where the Cambodian partner lives. You have literally traveled from the international level down through 2 national ministries all the way to the local neighborhood level. But wait, don't celebrate just yet. Even after surviving all those ministries and finally reaching the local commune, there is a mandatory 10-day waiting period once the documents are legally approved. During this window, the marriage bans, which are essentially public announcements of your intent to marry, have to be published at both the foreigner's embassy and the local commune office. Think of it as a final speak now or forever hold your peace mechanism. Only after those full 10 days pass without a single objection are you actually cleared to have the wedding ceremony. Ultimately, after all the bureaucracy, the heavy background checks, the ministry approvals, and the waiting periods, the whole journey ends right on the dotted line. The marriage only becomes legally valid when both applicants sign the official letter of marriage registration. And this has to happen right in front of the commune registration officials, with 2 adult witnesses present following the legal registration procedures to the letter. That signature, that is the final key that locks the entire process into place.
Which leaves us with a pretty profound final thought to take away from this explainer today. When you look at an incredibly rigorous process like this one, it really makes you wonder, how do international family laws balance the strict, necessary protection of vulnerable citizens against the fundamental human freedom to marry? The Cambodian system shows us a government actively building massive bureaucratic walls to stop exploitation and human trafficking, even if it means placing some seriously heavy burdens on genuine, loving couples. It's an absolutely fascinating look at where broad policy collides with deeply personal lives. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. I really hope it gave you a fresh perspective on the reality of the red tape behind international romance.